I finally did it.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect.
I get it now. For so long now, I've been hearing about the legend that is Lost Odyssey, a game that tried to go back to the golden era of JRPGs when everything else was trying to chase a modern game. Made by a man who created the legendary franchise we all know and love but chose to leave, form his own team, to have more creative control, to create his magnum opus. So knowing this, I turned on this prehistoric thing and dove straight into it right after experiencing the juggernaut of greatness that was
Good. Yes, good.
a game that was so heavily inspired by Lost Odyssey, and so I needed to jump back in time and experience it as it was. 17 years ago, we got a game that was criticized for being outdated. 17 years ago, we got an underappreciated work of art. 17 years ago, we got a timeless RPG. Look, I am no professional game reviewer. I'm not going to talk about why you should or shouldn't get a game, slap on an arbitrary number as a score to somehow make it seem like that has any value. No, that's not this video, nor will I ever do a type of review like that. No. Like always, I just want to talk about what I personally loved, why it's not probably, such a goddamn cool game, man. And hopefully this can resonate with you. First off, let's talk gameplay. I mean, what else can I say other than it's a solid turn-based combat system with some really cool real-time mechanics. This game, along with some other RPGs, were the catalyst that would inspire another juggernaut in Expedition 33. And it shows. Not only do you have some simple real-time mechanics, but you also have accessories that all possess unique abilities with SP bars to fill. Of course, once those bars are filled, you can permanently equip them on your character. I'm not saying tons of other RPGs don't do this same exact thing, but you can definitely see where Expedition got its inspiration for its Picto system. You can also equip up to 5 playable party members at a time, which you don't see a lot in RPGs. Usually they stick to the more traditional 3 to 4, but occasionally you'll have games like this that push it to 5, which I really appreciate. But man, if you enjoy yourself some traditional turn-based RPGs with some light innovative mechanics, you'll almost certainly enjoy the combat here. And it's really as simple as that. Listen, Lost Odyssey has been in my backlog for so long, but after finding out that this small team called Sandfall Interactive, who created something truly inspired, passionate, something truly unique to them, named Lost Odyssey as their main inspiration, I knew I had to finally bite the bullet. And what I found was a timeless RPG filled with so much passion, humanity, that after 17 years has aged gracefully. Aged better than most Golden Age Final Fantasy games, including that of Final Fantasy X in many aspects. Well, besides being able to switch your party members mid-battle in 10, kind of upsetting we don't get more RPGs with this type of feature. But I mean, I couldn't believe that this released in 2007 and still felt this good, still looked this good, still explores themes that are so perpetually relevant to life. Timeless. That is Lost Odyssey. A game lost to time, but timeless all the same. If you enjoy nuanced characters, stories that can really connect with you on a personal level, I gotta tell you, Lost Odyssey should be at the top of your list. Clear Obscure, Final Fantasy, Nier, the Persona franchise, all games that I love that impact me so deeply to the point where these experiences transcend simply being a video game. This is pure art. And in the same way I feel about those games, Lost Odyssey, I feel, is a culmination of this era of RPG that didn't receive the flowers it deserved. This game genuinely reminded me of how precious life can be, how fleeting, fragile human life is. How this theme reflects and contrasts the nature of our main character being immortal. How our main characters grapple with their fate of eternal life, living 1,000 years amongst human life that seems like sudden death in comparison. To really appreciate the significance of the themes here though, I gotta tell you about the story, man. Lost Odyssey tells us a tale set in a world teetering ever closer to a magic industrial revolution, where a magic engine called the Grand Staff becomes the focal point to the main conflict, where magic energy is revered as the next step in human evolution. It tells us a story about a mercenary named Kaim Argonar. What really sets Kaim apart as a character is his immortal nature. The theme of immortality just adds that extra nuance that is honestly just a breath of fresh air. We follow Kaim as he's tasked with the investigation of a magical calamity caused by Grand Staff, and finds him and his party ensnared in a terrifying plot to control humanity through magic. All the while, we follow this protagonist who slowly recovers his buried memories, tackles the emotional weight of both his immortality and of the nature of humanity. Yet all he can do is walk on a path with no conclusion. Much like another character you may or may not know. This is his gift. This is his curse. This is Kaim. Kaim isn't the only immortal. In total, there are 5 immortals in the story and 4 in our party. Kaim, Seth, Ming, and Sarah, all who grapple with their fate and what it means to possess eternal life in a world where life is all too fleeting. Besides the immortal characters, we also have Jansen, Mac, Cook, among many more who are equally important in emphasizing humanity, being a great foil to the immortals. But just to give you an idea, let me introduce you to one of my favorite characters in the game, Seth Balmore, a female pirate who's pretty much the confident, unwavering type who you would be a fool to cross. Underneath her hard exterior tells a story of a woman who's experienced centuries of betrayal, loss, and love. A person who cannot find any purpose in the freedom of pirate life when life itself is so boundless for her. There is no rush for glory or a dream. Just a very small glimpse into only one of the immortals you'll meet in the game. And Lost Odyssey does such a brilliant job at fleshing out these characters through a series of in-game visual novels called The 1,000 Years of Dreams. Probably to the average gamer, reading all of this might seem like a nightmare, but this is just part of the experience, man. One of the key aspects to Lost Odyssey that really makes this game something special. These small visual novels, in my opinion, are the heart of the game, and if they didn't include these 1,000 Years of Dreams, I really believe the game just wouldn't have worked as well. To really understand, truly get to know these characters, you do not want to skip these dreams. I kid you not, almost all of them had me shedding tears, looking like I just lost a loved one myself. Each one takes you through a random experience of a certain immortal, mostly Kaim, and somehow each one is so powerful and written so brilliantly, better than full-on games today. Tales of Kaim's side encounters on his long journey through time, experiencing love and loss, outliving loved ones, and experiencing 1,000 years of countless life and death. Listen, if you love the anime called Frieren and you haven't played Lost Odyssey yet, you are absolutely missing out on yet another peak story, as both tackle very similar themes. Our main party in the game is comprised of not only just immortals, but of humans who each have a significance to a certain immortal. Whether they're a loved one, a family member, it is the presence of these humans whose lives are so very fragile that give purpose to our immortal characters. It's that enduring impact of the human spirit experienced within these 1,000 years that keeps them grounded in reality, and perhaps find their own purpose as beings who have endless time. That brings us to my favorite part of the video, the theme to a story, the overarching message, what the writer has to say. I always find it so intriguing, so amazing how experiencing any fictional story is like looking through a window into the author, the writer's mind. To be able to understand intimately what this person is trying to say to me through passionate tales is so insurmountably gratifying. After all, a story is only as interesting as how said storyteller views the world. world around them. With award-winning novelist Kiyoshi Shigematsu and the creator of Final Fantasy Hironobu Sakaguchi writing this story, they have managed to create one of the most emotionally and thought-provoking stories in a video game I have ever played. Granted, this goes without saying, but it's not perfect. Many times you can see a dip in quality in the main plot's writing in comparison to the Thousand Year Dream stories. Stories I felt were always top quality, easily one of my favorite parts of the game besides its characters. But I digress. The themes of loss, time, immortality are all a huge part of this tale. But perhaps the two most important themes explored in Lost Odyssey are identity and human nature. Every immortal in this story grapples with their immortality, and it's because of that very nature that their memory of 1,000 years is so important to their identity. Why another threat that the story introduces so early on, the loss of their memories, is so goddamn terrifying. My goodness, Lost Odyssey manages to resurface so many of my own thoughts about my own life, who I am, what it means to die, lose your memories, becoming a husk of who you once were. You aren't you, you're simply empty, nothing. And that is a type of terror I simply struggle to comprehend, something that will probably always haunt me. And that is a conflict Kaim and the other immortals have to start facing. Without memory, there is no life. Rather, it's because of memory that life stays alive even when the dead have long since departed this world. And memory as an immortal even more so valuable when Kaim carries the legacy of all those random memories, those lives that connected to him. But listen, the idea of eternal life, being immortal, is a horrifying unlikelihood. You see years, decades pass by. Years that seem to flow together with endless wars. People are born and then they die. People that will love each other unconditionally yet kill each other without limit. Civilizations, nations that prosper in one century are toppled by human conflict and conquest. Measureless joys are felt and immeasurable suffering simply a foregone conclusion. This is the reality of our characters in Lost Odyssey, those blessed with eternal life. Living 1,000 years means enduring 1,000 years of partings. And yet, it's because of this life that they live, Kaim, Seth, Sarah, and Ming, that they have to come to appreciate the diamond in the rough, appreciate the love even amongst a sorrow-filled existence. And my goodness, this is so cinema, this is peak. This is what I live for when it comes to storytelling in video games. It doesn't have to be the most complex and wild story out there, but in my opinion, some of the best stories out there are ones that simply explore the human spirit and basic humanity. Lost Odyssey shows us that human life is a weak and fragile existence. Throughout the 1,000 years of dreams, these backstories of mostly Kaim on his endless travels, he meets many people with the many characteristics of what it means to live as a human being, immortal or not. And as you progress further into the game, you come to realize that that clear difference between immortal and human becomes blurred. What I found interesting was that in every one of these short stories, Kaim consistently retains some of the most important qualities as any living being. Qualities of empathy and kindness. A very common theme I see with Kaim's character, really all of the immortals, is how they constantly question their humanity, seeing themselves as too alienated to understand why they're even living. What purpose do they have? I'm gonna draw on another very timeless character here, but if we take a look at someone like Superman, a character who tackles themes of kindness and empathy, someone who believes with all their heart in the greatest qualities of humanity, love, compassion, kindness. However, it's everyone around him that has to be convinced that he's as human as the rest of us. That despite being different, someone who came from another planet, that he isn't here to soar above us, but to simply be here with us as a human being. After all, Superman grew up with us. He didn't grow up on Krypton, he grew up on Earth and grew up as one of us. And this goes back to Kime and the Immortals, as they have spent a millennia on Earth, more than they ever have from where they came from originally. Of course, no spoilers. Instead of Kime being the one who believes in his humanity, it's the people around him that eventually make him and the Immortals realize what it means to be human. What their purpose is for living when possessed with infinite time in a world where time for everyone else is so finite. Get far enough and hopefully you don't miss it. There's a passage in the dream called The Upstreamers where Kime reflects on his immortality, and it reads, quote, "Living itself is a journey without end. In the course of his journey, he has witnessed countless deaths, and he has also witnessed countless births. Human life is all too short, too weak and fleeting. Yet the more he dwells upon its evanescence, the more he feels inexplicably that words such as eternal and perpetual apply more properly to life, finite as it is, than anything else." Words so beautifully written and so very true. Life, in a sense, is also immortal, a perpetual cycle, and human nature ever enduring. Lost Odyssey emphasizes that human life is a weak and fragile existence, sure, but perhaps it's because of that awareness in every living being, given the instinct to survive, knowing all too well the fragility of life, that we choose to love, empathize, show kindness, and endure. That is human nature. That is Lost Odyssey. And it's this very nature that these immortals learn that there is no one answer to what it means to live, but their individual experiences, trudging, traveling through the flow of time, encountering peoples and cultures, stories so different and perhaps not too dissimilar to their own. That is the true significance of Lost Odyssey. Listen, I didn't even scratch the surface of the main story, who each character really is down to personality, where they really come from. Of course not. That's for you guys to go and get the chance to play, experience this timeless classic for yourself. Don't just live through me and my videos. But at the very least, I wanted to create this video, gather my own thoughts and emotions on why this game managed to capture me in a way few games ever do. With exceptions, of course. But especially in where it matters the most, to me at least, in its storytelling, what the game has to say. And Lost Odyssey tells us a tale about the significance of the enduring impact human nature has in all of its nuance. That despite endless loss and sorrow, suffering and fatigue of a never-ending existence, true meaning and purpose, happiness can always be found.